Good afternoon and welcome to the Diplomacy Broadcast Network's coverage of the 2020 Liberty Cup, which is being played in Philadelphia. Joining me on the live stream, I'm Brandon Fogel, first of all. Joining me on the live stream are Siobhan Nolen and Markus Zijlstra. Siobhan and Markus, welcome to DBN's coverage. So with that, let us hop over into the game coverage. So this is the lineup for round one, and let's just dive right into it. In Austria, we've got Hal Phillips Dibb playing from the United Kingdom. In England, we've got Kartik Konath, who is in California. France is Douglas Rintoul in Pennsylvania, which has maybe this is a different Pennsylvania from the one that we're familiar with. Germany is Liam Stokes coming to us from British Columbia. In Italy, we have Jonathan Frank out of Maryland, my home state. In Russia, we have Ed Sullivan from Texas. He is an online presence, goes by the name of Go Horns Go, and does a lot of work with Nexus and coverage there. In Turkey, we have Matthew Krill coming to us from the state of Washington. And let us see what the board looks like. So this is how the board looks with the players in position. And for spring of nine, and so do we know anything? I know Ed. Do you guys know anything else about any of the other players, or are they brand new to you?
Most of them are pretty brand new to me. The only one I'm familiar with is Matthew Krill in Turkey. He's a really solid player, and he comes to the West Coast tournaments quite often.
Yeah. Okay. Only Ed is familiar to me, although obviously I might know them by online names. It's kind of difficult when you're an online player.
Yeah, this is something with that we're still trying to figure out. For those of us who come from the in-person, face-to-face world, how to manage knowing people by their names versus people who come from the online world who are used to knowing people by their handles. And Markus, you are one of the moderators on Nexus, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, so maybe when we come back around this game the next time, you can tell us if you see any Nexus-specific play coming from Ed. Let us dive into the moves here. So, and we are going to try this format. Siobhan is going to talk about the West, and Markus is going to talk about the East. So here are the spring 1901 moves. Siobhan, what do you see in the West?
What jumps out to me right away is Liverpool went to Eddie instead of Yorkshire. I typically see a move to Yorkshire. Germany's moves are very standard. France has decided to just dive straight into Iberia. So the question for me is going to be whether or not France takes Iberia with the armies and drops the fleet around right away. So that'll be interesting to keep an eye out for.
So real quick, what are the dangers? What are the differences between opening from Liverpool to Edinburgh versus York?
You don't have the ability to cover London with the army. Which means that if, it didn't happen in this case, if France had gone to the Channel, covering London your options are limited. You can convoy the army with either fleet now, which means that if you convoy it using Norwegian, North can make a dive for Belgium, or if you convoy it using North, Norwegian can go up to Barents. So a lot of options.
So it creates flexibility, but opens up a possible defensive weakness, which France did not take advantage of. France's opening is as friendly towards England and Germany as you could possibly get as well, correct?
That is correct. So I'm wondering if the three of them have talked it out, and are we seeing a Western Triple in the making?
All right, we will keep an eye on that. Markus, let's go to you in the East.
All right, well, biggest move I can see in the East is obviously that Smyrna to Armenia move. Very anti-Russian right off the bat from Turkey. That's not something you see all that often, especially without, well, I assume that's a planned bounce in the Black Sea, so it might have been them both trying to trick each other, but we'll see on that. Elsewhere, it looks fairly standard. The Italian opening is a little unusual, but it ultimately doesn't really vary from the usual. The only difference would be if that fleet in Trieste had bounced Venice and it didn't. So pretty standard. The only thing we can really see is that Turkey is committing to a Russian attack, or attempting to be seen to commit to a Russian attack early.
Yeah, I like how you said that at the end, committing to be seen that way. So as viewers of these streams know, we like to talk about this a lot. In Chicago, this opening is extremely common. maybe even as much as 50% of the time. And we've come to learn in Chicago that it can often be a prelude to an RT. It's a very sort of sneakily arranged RT. And you might see Turkey get the Black Sea and then convoy the army over in spring of 02, something like that. So we'll keep an eye on that. Let's move ahead to the fall moves. And Siobhan, we'll go back to you for the West.
All right. So it looks like the West has decided that England gets Belgium. Germany supports himself into Holland, which tells me maybe they aren't quite as friendly as I was thinking in the spring. Used the Norwegian to convoy Eddie over, and France does indeed make an immediate dive for the Western Med.
That is aggressive, isn't it?
That is hugely aggressive and not something I see very often in 01.
Are you, if this were a Western triple, are you more or less convinced that it's a Western triple now?
I am less convinced that it's a Western triple. If they wanted to do the triple, just go for it. There's no sense trying to slow play it. We don't have a fleet in the Barents. I see often that Germany gets 3 builds in Western triples. So,
yeah, if I'm Germany, I actually demand the 3rd build if I'm going to be part of the Western triple.
Same.
All right, so there's at least one player playing a Western triple in the West. We'll see how that plays out. Markus, let's go to you in the East.
Yeah. Again, it's these Turkey moves that are the interesting thing. The seemingly contradictory moves of Armenia attacking Sevastopol and then Bulgaria not attempting to bounce the Russian out of Romania. I guess maybe he was expecting the Russian to try and move the fleet in. Either that or they're just play acting. Obviously, Italy's going to have quite a bit to worry about in the near future with France coming down. So we'll see this triangle mostly focused around Austria, Russia, Turkey, and we don't really know who's with who right now.
So how well do you know Ed's style of play?
Not very. I've only played with him once, and it was very well. The game's still ongoing, so I can't really talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah. I was really surprised to see that Sweden bounce up there. I would have expected that if Turkey was opening anti-Russian, the North would want Russia a little bit bolstered to counter that.
Yeah, in Chicago, that's one of the reasons why people like to do the subterfuge of a pretend Turkish attack on Russia, is to convince Germany to let them into Sweden. But if that was the goal, it didn't work, which Turkey may not be too upset about. If that is what they're going for. Okay, let's move on to the winter. And here's how things stand before the builds. What would be the most surprising build for you guys? Siobhan?
I mean, the most surprising build that's also in the realm of possibility. I think if I saw a double army from Germany, I'd be very shocked right now.
Markus, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at absolutely surprising builds, anything anti-Italian from Austria would be pretty out there.
Right. Fleet
no, yeah, obviously that's not going to happen. I'd be surprised to see anything anti-Austrian from Italy as well, considering that France is coming down on them quickly.
I think if we had Ariel Mendez Pinate playing in this game, we would absolutely see an Army Liverpool here.
That would definitely happen.
It wouldn't actually, and I think he could make a good argument for it, like especially if this is a bid for a Western triple, that he may want to look less threatening to both Germany and France. Let's see what we got. We do have an army from England, but in London, not in Liverpool. Although functionally it's the same, since there's no fleet bordering London. There's nothing for him to do with the army at this point. Although I suppose English Channel, he'd have to make, if he were in Liverpool, he'd have to make a decision between Wales and New York. Looking around the rest of the board, Germany got the fleet down. Turkey puts a fleet in Caen, which gives him flexibility. He could have put it in Smyrna to make a full commitment to Russia. And France fully committed to the southern move, not necessarily in concert with the Western triple. Let me pose this question to you guys. Is that the most interesting thing that you're looking at, or does something else pique your interest more? And Markus, let's go to you first on this.
Fleet Marseille is definitely the most interesting thing to me. Just the fact that France is really going all in on this attack. Obviously, they could rotate north, but it would take them a while to get there. So I think that would be a mistake on France's part to just completely commit to the south here. It's really dangerous considering how many units are on their borders.
Siobhan, what about you?
I mean, I agree with that analysis. What jumped out to me immediately was that fleet in Caen. I don't see that very often. Typically, Turks like to build in Smyrna so that they can cover the Eastern Med or Aegean. But with the Italian having so much else to worry about, the Turk probably doesn't really think that that move would come.
Yeah, this is always the problem with Turkey in spring of 2002. What do you try to protect Bulgaria, or do you try to protect Aegean, or even get into Aegean in order to threaten Greece? We see that army get popped so frequently. And that, and then what, right? That's always the next question for anyone who's attacking Turkey. All right, let's push ahead here and see what happens next. And let's reverse polarity here. Markus, we'll go to you first in the east.
Okay, well, we can see that the Turk was indeed attacking Russia properly, unless that was some kind of ploy to destroy the fleet. Russia outright backing out of Romania. I assume that Turkey might have convinced him to back out of Romania so that Turkey could convoy the army across, which would have been genius play on the Turkish parts, but clearly didn't work. And then Austria committing to a Russian alliance while Russia attacks the Austrian, and Austria attacking the Italian at the same time. It looks like this is going to be insane.
This is great. This makes me this. I don't know if it makes me happy, but it certainly entertains me.
Yeah.
So Austria appears to be attacking at least two of its three neighbors and possibly getting away with it. We'll see what happens here. Okay, and Siobhan, let's go to you in the west.
It looks like the Western Triple has finally figured itself out. Everything is moving east. France is fully committed to this fight in the Med. I'm a little bothered by the two English units that are now just completely useless in Belgium and London, because London can't convoy anywhere, and maybe Belgium will move in the fall now that Germany has committed and pulled Holland away.
Boy, that Army Liverpool would have been just right here, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. It
wow,
really would.
I think we have found the situation where it is obligatory.
I hate when Ariel's right.
Well, we'll get to talk about Ariel later because he is playing in the tournament.
Okay, good.
This is all right. We have to move on, but I am very curious about what you think of this situation, this Western Triple, the way that it's set up. Real quick, can you comment on that? And I'll throw this to either one.
I'll jump in real quick. I am not in love with it. It was slow to get off. The English units that are just sitting there. Why is Paris just holding? I mean, I get that you don't want to spook the German, but in that case, you should have just waived your build. Get those units in play. You don't have the time to have 1, 2, 3 units that are just doing nothing.
Yeah, man. In France, you got this problem. I mean, if you were really going to commit this hard, you needed another fleet here. So this feels to me like France is at a big disadvantage, and either England or Germany could take advantage of it, depending on how things break. All right, let's move ahead here in the fall of 1902, and let's stay with the East first. Markus, you are on the clock.
Okay. Well, the Turk gets out of the Russian center here, so they must have made up. The Austrians still attacking everyone around them and being attacked by everyone around them now. So, they did manage to make the gain in Venice, but I don't know that it's going to work out very well for them in the long run, because obviously this Western Triple is bearing down and they're weakening the people who need to be bolstering against that. What else have we got here? Well, I mean, the Italian getting into Greece with Turkish assistance, it really does look bad from Austria on the diplomatic front. And it looks like against the Western Triple, they are going to hold for the moment just because of where they all are at. But
yeah, the lineup of the units for the Western Triple is well. Let's go to the West. Siobhan, you're up.
So England moved Belgium out, which is good. France is getting almost nowhere. Italy seems to be the only one responding to this threat with the attempt to go to Piedmont, but is getting eaten up by the Austrian from behind. So we'll see how long that works. Um, I, it's better, but it's not a great triple. I still don't really love it. Germany's going to get all the immediate gains. France is going to get nothing.
Suddenly, Germany looks much more delicious, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, I'm liking the German.
With Austria messing with other potential problems for Germany. It feels like Germany doesn't have obstacles at the moment, and it has room for growth, has avenue for growth. So
Yeah.
whether that converts to early leader syndrome or not, we'll find out. Okay, let's move on to builds. We'll get a little bit more time during builds to do some analysis. And we have got a bunch of armies plopped down here. Germany puts one down in Kiel. Austria gets 2 builds here, even though Austria only picked up 1 center, because one of the units was the fleet dislodged out of Greece and pulled rather than retreated. So this actually Austria may be able to make peace with Italy here. But Italy's out of position now. They're going to lose Tyrrhenian Sea. And yeah, this is really fun. Okay, who would you most want to be on this board? Siobhan.
I think the German we were just talking about, the Austrian position is not terrible, but I don't really like it. He's messed with a bunch of people very early and doesn't seem to actually have a friend. So yeah, the German.
Markus?
Yeah, I agree. I like the German position a lot. I would also quite like the Turkish position, just because they're allied with Italy, they're allied with Russia, and they've got a free expansion route forward, basically, on that against Austria, with everyone angry at Austria as well. But Germany is probably the best choice.
Let us go to the builds, and here is what happened. Austria put down 2 armies. Right, and we talked about the possibility that Austria and Italy could reconcile here. And then the question is what happens with Turkey, and Russia seems just a bit stranded. Kiel has an army, a brand new army, which is in Kiel, interestingly, not Berlin. So this could suggest that things may be a little bit distrusting in the West. This could also be headed for Livonia. So let's find out. And Siobhan, we'll start with you in the West. Tell us what you see.
A lot of movement this turn. So we've got a couple of convoys by France into Tuscany and North Africa. Nicely done. England takes St. Pete, convoys the army over to Norway, and the German armies just sort of shuffle Bohemia, Warsaw, march onward, Western Triple.
This is a 4 convoy turn. We have 4 convoys on this board, which could be a record. I don't know. I don't know if I've seen that before. Markus, tell us about the East here. What stands out?
So the move that's confusing me a little is Romania to Ukraine. I assume because the Austrian is moving back to Serbia that they're still anti-Turkey, but like it looks like this was coordinated. It looks like Constantinople to Sevastopol and Bulgaria moving up to Romania was agreed with Austria. I guess we'll see about that going forward. It also looks like Austria is the only power in the East that's not really concerned with the Western Triple. I suppose Turkey as well, but Turkey is setting up to counter it as soon as they've run through Russia. So bad situation for Italy for sure with the convoys into Tuscany and North Africa. And I'm surprised Italy was happy with Turkey going to Ionian instead of sending his own fleet there. But I suppose that's also to hold Greece down against a potential Austrian coming south.
Yeah, this in the East, this looks like one of those turns that's just like, what the hell is going on in negotiations, right? Yep. I mean, clearly Austria and Italy are not on board together. Who knows what Turkey's doing? Maybe Russia is just giving dots away at this point. Let's look ahead and see. Fall 1903. Markus, let's stay with you in the East. And
okay.
All right, we have an answer about one thing.
I guess probably wasn't coordinated then. And we actually see Turkey walk out of Sevastopol again, trying to tap Ukraine. It may have been may have been actually trying to take Ukraine, but you've got to assume that Turkey wanted Sevastopol here, so and was just trying to keep Romania. Obviously didn't work because of the amount that Austria put into taking Romania. Also, I'd assume that's a self-bouncing, that's an arranged bounce in Greece, but again, hard to know for sure. The Italian unit in Tunis moving to Finland is kind of interesting because you'd expect that he'd at least try to get the Turk to support hold him in one of Tyrrhenian Sea or Tunis. So clearly, maybe the move to Ionian wasn't agreed at all. A horrible move for Italy because you lose Tunis, and France is in the Tyrrhenian and Tuscany as well now. Didn't manage to get Venice back in any way. In fact, I think Italy tried to support France into Venice. Is that correct?
Let's see here. Italy tried to support Tuscany to Venice. Yep.
Yeah. And France still didn't take that support.
Went to Romania. So, all right, before we turn to the West and see what actually happened with the Western Triple, as far as possible responses that the East could have to a Western Triple, this is not high on the list, right? This is not an optimal response to a Western Triple. Okay, let's move back to the West. Siobhan, tell us about what happened with the Western Triple.
What the what? Excuse me. So yeah, you were talking about that not optimal response to a Western Triple. Well, there is no longer a Western Triple. Germany does not manage to hold on to Warsaw and loses Sweden and Holland to those pesky English players. Yeah,
it's worth noting that the support that Finland gave for Norway to Sweden was not cut by the move from Tunis to Finland.
Italy tried, but yeah. So Russia has, as I can see it, decided who must be punished for all of this chicanery, and it's the German.
Okay, let us look at the builds then. We've got England dropping Army Liverpool. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, great. The Marseillaise is what we announced for Army Liverpool.
Yep,
so this is a clear signal, I think, to France that England's not coming after you, or at least that's the hope. Elsewhere, we just have a bunch of disbands. Russia gives up on the Northern Fleet. Germany gives up on Bohemia. Germany's suddenly looking very skeletal. Interesting that Germany gave up on Bohemia rather than Livonia.
I'm not sure I agree with that. Yeah.
In terms of defensive capacity, that seems less optimal. And in the South, we have just a continuing kaleidoscope of colors. All right, let's go back to you, Markus, in the East. Tell us what stands out to you most.
Okay, well, I mean, they don't have the Western Triple to worry about anymore, but obviously they've still got the looming French threat, which is especially true for the Italian, who's kind of just stuck there. We're seeing Austria make up with Turkey again. This is definitely a back and forth over here. And Turkey attempting to take Sevastopol. It looks like it may have been an arranged bounce. It's either a bad guess on Turkey's part or an arranged bounce. But yeah, Turkey's in a decent position, although could be stabbed by the Austrian again. Can they? Not really, because they can support Constantinople to Bulgaria. So Turkey's actually in a really good spot here because their main ally is someone who doesn't have any fleets and so can't stab them in any way, really. Italy's still in a bad spot. Russia's looking surprisingly good now.
Relative to where they were, in other words. So, okay, let's go to the West here, Siobhan.
So England continues his march into Germany, but possibly has some French issues. I don't know if the French player is nervous about the fact that the English player just dropped down 3 units, but you see the moves to set up to take Belgium, as well as Tunis pulling back to Western Med. Curious to see where France is going from here.
All right, let us see then. Fall of 1904. Siobhan, we'll start with you.
And yep, he takes Belgium, he pulls back into the Mao, and the French player convoys into Rome. Very nice.
Successfully.
Yeah. Okay. So the English player holds on to Denmark, but remains even. France is now up 2 with the ability to build in Brest. All right.
And a fleet in Picardy. Yeah.
And
All right.
Fleet and Picardy, yeah.
We'll talk about who you want to be after this turn. First, let's hear about the East from Markus.
Okay, the main thing that's standing out to me is that Ukraine army holding and getting forced by Galicia and Romania. I'm a little confused on that front. I wonder if it was an attempt to win any potential guests by just like making it retreat, and then on the retreat phase you get to retreat to anywhere that's open. But obviously, if it was that, didn't work at all because Russia covered every single home center. Austria and Turkey clearly making up and properly working together now, and it's pretty effective. They take Naples down south, and I think they're going to be in a deadlock against France pretty soon in this situation.
All right, let's take a look at the board here. I'll call the builds, and then I'm curious to know from each of you who you think is in the strongest position to top this board. For the builds, we've got France dropping down 2 more fleets. This is actually a fairly surprising build to me because he's got 3 armies on the board, but 2 of them are stuck down in the peninsula. Clearly not worried about Germany, but also has no ability to move on Germany if and when he wants to. Elsewhere on the board, we've got Turkey dropping 2 fleets, which feels very unusual to me. I don't know if you guys saw much of the previous game, but it was all armies from Turkey, and Austria getting an army on the board. Okay, so given this is where the board situation is, Siobhan, who would you most want to be? Who's in the strongest position on this board?
I think despite the double fleet mistake, I still like France. Austria and Turkey just hadn't gotten their stuff together enough for me to like the Austrian position more.
And Markus?
I feel like I'd want to play England in this situation, but it's heavily dependent on making sure that France doesn't just move up to North Atlantic and into Mid Atlantic here. Obviously, you do have those armies on the British homeland in case that does happen, but it would still lessen your chances at the board top.
It seems to me like I mean, neither England nor France has much capability to attack the other unless England were to convoy this army away and not be able to cover Liverpool. But yeah, it kind of feels like a case where they could both ruin each other's chances, but not necessarily secure their own by stabbing. Let's find out. So Markus, let's go with you. Tell us about the East.
Okay, well, I think we see that deadlock in the East coming in with the support hold on Rome and obviously the attack on Rome that doesn't work. It is a missed guess as opposed to any potential deadlock in the Tyrrhenian Sea. So France is just trying to hold out until they can get that fleet down to Western Med and block that up properly. But they could potentially do that because the Turkish fleets are all hemmed in by that one in the Ionian Sea. It's going to be really awkward to get past that. On the northern side of the East, we see Austria making a rush for Munich, which is going to succeed, I assume, because there's not really anything that can be done to stop it.
That's right, 3. Yeah, he's got 3 on Munich here, and England and France are now fighting. Let's hear about that from Siobhan.
As predicted by you, Brandon, it's going to be a whole lot of nothing for quite a while. France is trying to get Germany into Holland, it looks like, but Germany has much bigger issues coming at him because between the Austrian and the Russian moving west, he's not long for this world.
Yeah, this is a game where nobody wanted to be Germany's friend in this mid-game period.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's. Interestingly, we've got Russia looking like they'll get a build if they can convince Austria not to take Sevastopol here.
Go Russia, go!
Oh, that'd be fun, wouldn't it? All right, Ed, we're rooting for you. And here we go. Tell us about it, Markus. Tell us about the East.
Russia gets that build. So
yes!
Congrats, Ed.
I am surprised that Austria didn't go for Sevastopol there because, they're in quite a dangerous spot now with Russia being powerful again and with all their units pushed towards the Western Front. But maybe they've just decided this is going to be a Russia-Austria-Turkey alliance to the end, or they've solved that. We're seeing that issue of every Turkish fleet being stuck behind the Ionian. And France played that well. They went to Tunis, they went to Tyrrhenian Sea. Now it's even harder to get past. And Austria, Turkey are trying to correct this by putting more armies in Italy, which is okay. It's going to get them Naples. No, it's going to get them Rome, but then it won't get them further than that. Except, well, I'll leave that for you on the Western Front.
Let's hear about it, Siobhan.
So the first thing that jumped out to me was the retreat into Piedmont.
Yes.
Which
yes.
cannot be covered at all next.
Yes.
Can you go ahead and turn on the orders so I can figure out what that soupy mess on the English homeland? All right, so France guessed wrong by trying to convoy to Wales. Should have tried for London.
Yep.
And
well done, England on this case. England,
oh, that's superb. It's the 50-50 guess, and what kind of player am I up against, and what are they going to try for?
Yep.
Oh, okay. It's just nothing moves. It's
yeah. This is.
I mean, Germany loses Munich, and France is having a lot of problems.
This is worst case scenario from if you're England and France. You have done nothing but stop each other and given Austria the chance to get in a position.
Take advantage of a pretty big weakness now.
All right, let's move forward. And we have for the builds, we've got that famed Russian army dropping in Sevastopol. Could be a thorn in Austria's side. I'm with you, Markus. I'm not sure actually what Austria needs from Russia at this point. It would be if Austria thought they could pull it off, better to take the dot and then try to get Warsaw and Moscow behind. But now that option is actually out the door because they just don't have the units to both protect Romania and go after these dots. But they do have a future build coming from
Marseille,
Nigeria.
Spain, Portugal,
Yeah, normally if you're Austria and you are getting builds from Iberia or Marseille, it's a pretty good game.
Usually you're thinking solo at that point.
Yeah, but usually you've got fleets, just getting armies over there. All right, let's see how it goes. I know they're building some pulls here from England and Germany, which are of significance, actually. The German dropping the army rather than the fleet signifies that Austria could have a much easier time in the center than looked previously. Yeah. There's also Munich to Burgundy, right? France could end up Austrian by the end of this game. And let's see what happens. Tell us about the West. We after a year or two of deadlock, we have some movement. Tell us about it.
So England and France have realized their mistake in getting entangled and are just pulling away as fast as humanly possible. France is well on its way to becoming Austrian with German help in Ruhr, supporting Munich to Burgundy, because it looks like Germany has decided that they are angry at everyone in the West and just throwing it to Austria.
And takes around the East, if there is still anything to talk about over there.
So, I mean, I was really hoping for Russia to move to Armenia or something and just walk into Ankara. Because Russia has not a lot more to gain out of the north with so many armies here. They could go for Berlin, but Germany's working with their alliance, so it would have been nice to see them stab. But we see Russia pushing everything up to the front line, probably just hedging for that safe survival on 4 bet. We've got everyone sort of being friendly there and pushing forwards. And they finally managed to get out of that deadlock in the Ionian. Although they are going to need 3 fleets there if France is really trying to hold Tyrrhenian.
It's a very curious, from a balance of power perspective, the way that Turkey and Russia are playing this. I actually think I'm in agreement with you that Russia doesn't really have anything to gain from both hurting England. I mean, if anyone's trying to angle for the board top still here, they need to keep Austria in check, and England is willing to do that, whereas Turkey is in position to harm France if that's what they're angling to do. Also in position to harm Austria, but I mean maybe that's the other consideration. Anyway, I'm with you. Russia had the opportunity to drop into Armenia, pick up Ankh, drop a fleet in Sevastopol, and become really relevant again. But that didn't happen. All right, let's move forward to fall 1906. And Siobhan, tell us about the West.
As expected, Burgundy walks into Paris with no opposition, does not keep Marseille, but gets to be in Gascony, which is just fun as Austria. How often do you get that chance? Germany hangs on for another year, and yeah, it's a mess of Austrian and French units. Oof.
Yeah, tell us about the Marcus. Tell us about the Italian peninsula here.
Yeah, well, we see Turkey taking 2 Austrian centers here, presumably with Austrian agreement, though. Well, it's definitely with Austrian agreement. And they can now push through Tyrrhenian. It does show just how slow trying to push across the Tyrrhenian Sea is, because it's taken this long for someone with this much of a fleet advantage to get there, even when Lyon has been focusing further north. But it looks quite good for Turkey because they're going +2 here. I think Austria, despite taking Paris and Venice, is staying even.
I think Venice was already Austrian, wasn't it? No, it was French.
No,
it was French. That's right. Okay. So so now Austria is even. Turkey is building 2 behind all of the French units. It seems to me that the balance of power here has suddenly shifted, which you were intimating just now, Marcus. I think I agree with you. Siobhan, would you agree with that at this point?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
All right, let's see the builds. 2 fleets.
Ooh.
Turkey needed an army here. If Turkey was going to stab,
at least one.
If Turkey was going to stab, it had to be an army.
So Turkey's not going to stab.
Turkey has just given away a chance at the board top, I believe. The way that Turkey tops the board here is by taking one or more of these 3 dots, plus potentially Venice if they play their cards right. I guess Tunis as well.
Tunis, Venice, probably Serbia, Romania.
But these are now off limits.
But now he can't.
Yep. Okay, let's move forward here. Spring of 2007. Let's see. Siobhan, tell us about the West.
There's a lot of red arrows in Scandinavia, and it appears that Sweden tried to take Finland, and Finland tried to take Norway. No, St. Pete tried to take Norway, and Finland tried to get Livonia into Sweden.
Why didn't Livonia? But why didn't that work? There must have been a misorder with the convoy.
Yeah. Convoy Livonia to Sweden.
Oh no, Norway went to Finland. Norway
went to Finland. Okay, there we go. Other than that, we continue to see the mixing of Austrian and French units. It's hard to see who really has the upper hand here, but some good guesses by both sides, and the Turks march on up the boot.
Yeah, I mean, Marcus, I'd turn it over to you in the East here, but really nothing happens other than Turkey vacating any chance of topping this board.
I think one thing that may be possible here, Galicia's support Ukraine to Warsaw seems a bit weird to me. I think it might be possible they arranged a bounce there and Austria changed things up so that he could walk into Sevastopol. But that's conjecture and very well might not happen.
But it would guarantee a lone board top. So with Turkey picking up Tunis here, Turkey would tie. So Turkey's at 7 coming into this year. They would tie Austria at 8. England still at 8 as well, actually, and taking Berlin here. Has Austria taken their eye off the ball and
just too focused on France there?
Yeah, let's see. Okay, in fall of 1907, Marcus, tell us about the East real quick.
Yeah, so we do see that move into Sevastopol. We also see the Russian units all backing off. So I think that was an attempted an attempted arranged bounce in Warsaw that the Austrian stabbed on. Obviously, Turkey can't really do anything against the Austrians, so they're just sending all their fleets still west and just covering up Bulgaria to be sure. Yeah, not a lot else going on here, but it looks like there'll be some interesting action here with Russia now in Galicia as well.
I'm seeing in the comments that England is actually Sam Feldman and not
on board 2, apparently.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so then Siobhan, anything in the West here?
The only big thing that jumps out to me is the failed convoy to Belgium, because London went to Picardy instead of Belgium. France loses Western Med.
Oh, that's potentially big, isn't it?
Yeah, that's unfortunate, and I have made that misorder many times on the Backstabber interface, and I feel for him.
So in Carnage scoring, actually, this means that England. So this game, I'll move ahead here. The game actually ends right here in spring of 1908. So that misorder actually meant that England and Austria finished the game tied at 9, which in Carnage scoring, instead of England topping the board alone. Yikes. Which in Carnage scoring doesn't make a big difference. It's the difference. It's less. It's like 10% difference in your score, but because it's so hard to differentiate yourself in Carnage scoring from other players, those little small gaps do matter when it comes down to the final standings.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap this game up then. Do you guys? So, and Turkey misses out of sharing the board top by 1. Do you guys feel like this is the right result, or do you think this game should have kept going, or do you think somebody else should have topped? Markus, let's go to you on this.
I think this is a fine place to end. The only, Austria wants to end here, obviously, because that Russian unit in Galicia is so annoying and will probably just slip into their home centers and take them down. Maybe England could get a solo board top, given no one is fighting against them. So England would be the only holdout I'd see. I think Turkey can't really make much progress with this many fleets, and obviously France and Russia will be quite happy to see the draw.
Siobhan, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree that based on this board position, it makes sense for the board to draw. I really feel for England here. My only sort of, not regret exactly, but what I wish we had seen is that Turkey had taken the opportunity to plop down some armies and stab.
Yeah.
Because that would have been huge.
For me, that's the big regret for me. I'd love to have seen Turkey take a shot at it, because certainly the option was there. The question is whether it would have handed a bigger board top to England or not, but go for it. What do you have to lose?
Yep.
All right. Shall we bid adieu to Brandywine, board 1?
Yeah. Thanks very much, guys. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thanks. Good game. And congrats to Kartik. Hopefully I'm saying your name right. And to Dave Smith for sharing the board top.